Hi, and welcome back to class of Product Development and Entrepreneurship. I am Hitesh Raiyani, Assistant Professor at LJ Institute of Engineering and Technology. This is lecture 18, virtual reality and design using virtual prototypes. The learning outcomes of these lectures is to learn virtual realities, what is virtual realities or virtual environment, and virtual prototyping. And also we learn in these lectures the design using virtual prototypes. So let's start our lectures by virtual realities. So what is virtual realities? So virtual realities is nothing but the environment that is simulated by a computer. So whenever we use virtual realities in our 3D models creations in CAD software, so that is nothing but the use of virtual realities. So virtual realities is sometimes called as a virtual environment, and if you look at that virtual reality environment are the primarily visual experience that displays on the computer screen. So virtual realities and virtual environment are used in computer community interchangeably. So in generally it is nothing but the environment that is created in computers, and or you can say the environment which is simulated by a computer. It's nothing but the virtual realities. Here I show the pictures. You can understand from these pictures what is virtual realities. Here the picture shows the using of virtual environment. Now next is the virtual prototyping. So as we know that virtual realities, so what is virtual prototyping? So virtual prototyping is nothing but the process of creations digital prototypes by the using of virtual realities and computer technologies. So in 3D mechanicals models, we create CAD files or feature-based modeling in CAD software. That is nothing but the virtual prototypes. It is using of virtual environments and by using the computer. So it is the creations of digital prototypes, and it is nothing but the virtual prototyping. So virtual prototyping is relatively new technologies which involves the use of virtual realities and the other computer technologies to create the digital prototypes. So virtual prototypes, or you can say the digital mock-up, is the computer simulations of a physical product. So it is nothing but the virtual prototypes is nothing but the computer simulations of the physical product. Here I shows the figures of virtual prototypes. Here the 3D mechanicals model is controlled by the control design software, and this both features is integrated to each other. So it is nothing but the virtual prototypes, and after the creations of successful prototypes we can go for the physical prototypes. Now if you look at the virtual prototypings, here I shows the virtual prototypings in which you can see that there are two functionals. There are geometry, that is nothing but the creations of 3D models in CAD software. Yeah. And if you look at the functionality parts, there are the engineering analysis. We do the analysis of the particular virtual components to get required result like stress, stiffness, temperatures, thermal stress, etc. So here if you combine this both the functional, that is nothing but the virtual prototyping. So virtual prototyping is the constructions and testing of virtual prototype is nothing but the virtual prototyping. So if you look at that, you create the CAD models in CAD softwares, and you analyze or testing that prototypes, virtual prototypes in testing software. This both the combinations of this both the process is nothing but the virtual prototyping. So Next is the design using virtual prototypes. So now you know that what is virtual prototypes, what is virtual prototyping, and what is virtual realities. Now, what is the applications of these virtual prototypes in our design process? So next topic is the design using the virtual prototypes. So here I shows the comparisons between comparisons of traditional design approach and the ones one which is using a physical which is using the virtual prototypes. So above figures you can see that it is the traditional approach, and this design process starts with the concepts, and then analytical calculations is done to calculate the design parameters, and after finalize the design parameters in design step, the physical next is to create the physical prototypes. So once the physical prototype is created, the next step is to test of prototypes by the using of testing machines according to the requirement properties. So here the physical prototype is made, and the testing of physical prototype is done, and if the testing prototypes doesn't meet the required properties, then again the redesign the parameters, and against the physical prototype is manufactured, and testing is done. So this process is continuously done until we get the required properties. Here you can see that there are the single way communication, so there are no two-way communication. So ultimately after the testing we have to design the remodeling to create the physical prototypes. Now, if you look at the below design process, which is using the virtual prototypes, here the difference is what are these. There are, if you look at this design approach by using the virtual prototypes, here the designs and virtual prototypes and testing of prototypes, there are the two-way communication. So this whole process is done in the software, and you can interact with each other. So these are the there are the two-way communications once in design using the virtual prototypes. So design using virtual prototypes is start with the concept and design, then design, and after the finalize the designs, the virtual prototype is created instead of the physical prototypes, and this virtual prototype is used to test of prototypes in the CAE software. So here virtual prototype is generated in the CAD software, and testing of prototypes is done in the CAE software. So this is interconnected, and you can see in figures there are the two-way communications, and if the prototype is not fulfill the requirement, then we have to remodify the designs. So this is the two-way communications, and we can save the lots of times and money by the using the virtual prototypes. And after finalize the test of prototypes, the design is approval. So by virtual prototyping, we refer the process of simulating the users, the products, and their combined interactions in the software through the different stage of product designs and the testing and the performance analysis of the product. So to understand the better in design using the virtual prototypes, consider this brief diagrams, or you can say the details diagrams. Here the modeling is created in 3D software. It is nothing but the initial virtual models, and after creations of initial virtual models, the analysis of this virtual model is done in the CAE software. So we get the virtual result in CAE software. So after that we get the virtual result, we have to validate the virtual result, and we have to check this result is invalid or valid. If there are the invalid virtual models, then we have to go for the refining, and we have to make the refined virtual models, and then again we have to do the analysis in CAE software, and we get the virtual result. result. So this process is continuously done until we get the validations of the virtual models. And if the validate the if result virtual result is validated, then we go for the optimizations of virtual model. So you can see this this is the design process using the virtual prototypes, and you can see that here we don't need the physical prototypes, and so that we can save the times and money in design using the virtual prototypes. If you look at here, I saw in dotted lines the physical prototype is tested by the we get the experimental result by the physical prototype testing, and we have to validate. So there are the only single communications, or you can say the one-way transformation, one-way communication. So this is the very difficult process by using the traditional approach. So this is the design using the virtual prototypes. So in these lectures we learn first what is virtual realities. It is nothing but the environment created by the computers. And what is virtual prototypes? It is nothing but the transformations of physical product into the digital. And you know that what is the virtual prototyping? It is nothing but the creations of virtual prototypes and testing of virtual prototypes. And last, you learn the design using the virtual prototypes. So in our next lectures, we learn the applications of digital tools which is used in design and manufacturing, and also we learn the product architectures. Thank you.